In the game of loans, you either win or you learn. Welcome to the game of loans, where fortunes are forged and empires are built. Your hosts, lords of lending and wholesaling, are here to guide you through the realm of real estate and wealth building. Brace yourselves, cash flow is coming. Welcome to the Game of Loans, episode 2. We got some exciting things to talk about to you today. Something very important. Just understand that in today's episode has nothing to do with politics. It just has to do with our expertise on potential, different sorts of, let's say, policies that could affect the economy and especially affect the real estate market. And that's the only thing that we're giving. Ross, tell them what we're talking about today.
Yeah, on this episode of Game of Loans, we're going to take a spin and we're going to take it through the matrix. Morpheus here is going to talk about red pill, blue pill, and how you need to plan for 2025.
So what's the first topic? What are we going at today?
So we're 2.5 months out from the election right now. And as a business owner and entrepreneur, it doesn't matter which side of the coin you're voting. You need to be aware of what the political landscape is putting in front of you and how that's going to affect your business. And so if we talk about the main deal points, on the Republican side, there's going to be an overhaul of the tax code is one of their primary items, and then selling public land, to use those proceeds to lower the national debt. On the Democratic side, the two big talking points right now in the real estate world are a $25,000 first-time homebuyer credit and a 25% tax on unrealized capital gains for real estate investors. So
that's a phantom tax, basically.
The phantom income tax. Right. And so, as a real estate lender and being on this side of the business, both of those laws or both of those parties are going to dramatically impact the landscape of the business. I know I myself can't control the election, and so the prudent thing to do is to have a business plan, regardless of what direction we go on the election side. And, we sit down, on a weekly basis, Steve and I, to strategize on what that looks like for us, what that looks like for our clientele. And we could talk about it a little bit here. So, on the Republican side, the main talking points is, selling public land, to reduce, tax or reduce the government debt. If that goes into effect, we need to dig a little bit deeper into the overall plan, but there could be some major risks and rewards. The reward being we lower government debt. That puts us in a much better position as a country going forward. On the flip side, selling public land, if it ends up in the hands of large corporations like Blackstone, BlackRock, Vanguard, it could just mean that asset prices are going to be inflated, less access to land to develop, just more of the larger conglomerates controlling, what happens with the supply of inventory for a real estate project. So our real estate investors are going to have a harder time getting access to that land if they're competing with guys with trillions of dollars under management. Simplifying the tax code. The Republicans are proposing, I believe it's 2 tax brackets, 15% and 30%. If you're an entrepreneur, you know that the tax code right now takes a doctorate degree to interpret and figure out. And still, at the end of the day, if you go through an audit, you probably have messed something up. And so the Republicans are just trying to simplify things and make it easier, so we don't have, I think we're at 8 different tax brackets with all these ins and outs, whether you're married, you're in a domestic partnership, you're single, all the different tax write-offs. And then on the other side of it, from the corporate side, they're looking to reduce the corporate tax rate from 21% to, I believe, 18%. And while people are like, tax the rich, tax the corporations, well, we're in a market right now that looks like we have a pending recession. Job growth is slowing down. If you have corporations at a higher tax rate and you're taxing the wealthy at a higher tax rate, that's going to mean that they can't afford to employ as many people or create new businesses or drive growth that will ultimately spur more job growth and employ more people, and therefore provide more money flowing into the economy and put us at, to take us out of the recession and put us in a much better GDP position where the country is growing and we're seeing, the spend go up and people have more opportunity to find gainful employment, wage growth, to get out of the lower, middle class and find their way into becoming successful successful entrepreneurs or financially independent, from there. On the Democratic side, the 25K first-time homebuyer credit sounds beautiful on paper, but the issue with first-time home ownership right now is a combination thing. It's education. Most people don't feel educated enough or understand the responsibilities of buying a home. And the second piece is affordability. I don't think the down payment affordability is really the issue. There's a lot of first-time homebuyer credits at the local government level that are already available today that people aren't taking advantage of. The issue is that the payment, because interest rates are so high, makes it unaffordable, for those people to get into houses. So either home prices need to come down, or rates need to come down, or new supply needs to come in where there's an oversupply of housing, which kind of changes the supply and demand, which ultimately will bring home prices either level or slightly down, or building more affordable housing, for the market. Giving somebody 25 grand is not going to make that house affordable in today's market and really spur a lot of home buying. Maybe in a couple of years, 3 years, if rates come back down, but all that extra money that goes through the economy does one thing. More people that buy houses means more demand, which means prices go up and houses become more and more unaffordable. And then that $25,000 got to come from somewhere on the tax side. So the wealthy and the corporations are going to carry the burden of paying that $25,000 tax credit, which is going to do what? It's going to slow down the growth of the economy, less jobs, less people who are qualified to buy these homes. And so I feel like they're tackling it at the wrong angle.
Nothing's free. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing's free.
100%.
I feel like it's a lot of flash too, because there's a lot of uneducated people out there that are going, ooh, 25 grand first time. Now I can buy a house. But what happens when they do get in that house and they can't afford to live there? That's going to be a major issue. So I feel like it's almost like, dangling the treat above the dog's head, like, hey, look what we're going to do for you. But we're not thinking about the repercussions and the negative, what's going to happen if that happens. So yeah, there's a lot of negative there.
No, it's a great point, and kind of back to, not having enough affordable housing in the market. The other piece of the Democratic campaign is stick it to the rich. Let's tax people on unrealized capital gains. And so they're imposing a 25% tax on unrealized gains on a real estate investment. Let's just use this analogy. You're a farmer. You have a seed. You put it in the ground. You're planting a tree that's supposed to bear fruit. But before you can pluck the first piece of fruit and sell it, they want to tax you 25% of the value of what that tree will produce in fruit. So you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have more taxes on that asset than you have cash flow or value that you can monetize. It's going to be a major issue. And then people who already hold real estate are going to have these egregious tax bills that are effectively going to cause them to liquidate their portfolios. And if there's an oversupply of housing that hits the market, it's going to cause a housing crash. And so I think, my interpretation of that is they're trying to force these big banks like Vanguard and BlackRock and these small, mid-size real estate investors to have to sell properties to be able to cover their tax bill. But we all know how taxes are managed and utilized. The trickle-down economics are just terrible in this country. For every dollar that's collected in taxes, probably about a penny of it ends up where it's supposed to be.
Right.
There's just so much misuse and leakage and funding of wars and causes that never reach fruition, like the homeless crisis in California or their major railway plans that they have. It's just billions and billions of our money that goes in the form of taxes that are misused by the government. And it's been like that way forever. The smaller the government, the better position that we're in. Whether you agree with it or not, that's my position. Now, Dustin, tell me, as a real estate investor, if you had a 25% unrealized capital gains tax, on your portfolio, let's just say, for example, your portfolio is worth $50 million. That's a 12 and a half, let's just say 50% of that's profit. Okay. That's 50% of 12.5 million. That's $6.125 million tax bill. What's that going to do to your business?
It would crush me. I'd stay afloat, but my God, I would be immediately on the defense. You would obviously have to sell some things. I don't have $6.5 million in cash just sitting around.
Would that deter you also from buying more real estate?
Of course, because my profit margins are down substantially. That's not just with rentals in your portfolios. That's with you doing your fix and flips and everything else. You're taking almost half of the profit. So, I mean, yeah.
I mean, remember, it's unrealized. One thing I want to say is I posted the whole phantom tax thing, right? I mean, all these jerk offs are now, they're copycatting it. It's all over the fucking internet. I was the first one to do it. But one thing that I want to make clear is a lot of people were responding to my reel, and they're like, "Oh, we already do that," because they're confusing that with property tax, right? I just want to make it clear, this is besides property tax, right? Because you're paying property tax when it gets reassessed, their taxes are going up, and people, they're not aware of what we're talking about. This is besides property tax. So when real estate taxes, they get reassessed, that's one thing. This goes on your income tax. That's fucking income. And, as your, the value increases, you're paying tax on that.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Just another way to make taxes overly complicated and,
Yeah.
undigestible by the average, person. I mean, just think about that. You almost have to manage your real estate portfolio like a real estate fund, where you have a net asset value and the fluctuations in your equity and your properties. You have to tax the difference in that year over year. And it's like, it's already hard enough to file taxes personally. We have to pay professionals tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars to prepare taxes today. It's just going to become more and more complicated, more and more money that goes out to these, CPAs and tax.
How much should we pay? I mean, we pay out of our asses between our audits and fucking, not talking personal, right?
About $120,000.
$120,000 we pay every year. Just in
professional services.
Professional services, right? But obviously in this, if you're successful, I always say you're as good as your fucking team, right? So obviously we surround ourselves with the best accountant and CPAs and auditors and attorneys. But at the fucking end of the day, it costs us an arm and a leg already, right? What I want to do is let's backtrack, right? Let's talk about the first thing that you brought up on the red side, right? On the Republican side, let's talk about simplifying the tax code. Like, what are the benefits of that, and what are potential downfalls of that?
Yeah, so let's just talk about it in terms of our business and how that impacts our business, and then I'll talk about it a little bit personally. So on the business side, a 3% reduction in the corporate tax rate. We're a corporation, Delaware Corp. That directly impacts us. That's 3% less in taxes that can go back into our budget. They can spur the business to hire people, to be able to provide better liquidity to our clients, and to offer cheaper services to our clientele. On the
let's just explain that though, because people are like, oh, it's just fucking 3%. But let's say we end up making our profits turn out to be $10 million this year, right? What's 10% of $3 million?
$300,000.
That's $300,000. What's the average salary in our business?
Probably about $60,000, so we can hire another five people.
Yeah, at 60,000, that's another 5 people that we're employing.
Yeah, and those 5 people.
That's significant.
Those 5 people give us capacity to go out and originate another $20-30 million in business, which is worth another $3-4 million a year. Easily $3-4 million,
which we're paying taxes on, right?
$120,000 less in taxes,
right? Another 120. That would mean that we hire another 4 people, right?
Yep.
So again, not talking politics, just talking policy, right? It just makes sense. It's we're not going to just take that fucking money and go to Bora Bora with that fucking money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we're taking that money and we're reinvesting it, right? And that's really important. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, or where they'll say, oh, it's just fucking 3%. No, man, fucking companies. Let's say it was $100 million, right? That's an extra $3 million.
It's a lot.
That's a fucking lot of money.
Yeah.
That could go back into building a business, to expanding a business, and things like that.
Exactly.
So I think that's pretty sound.
Yeah.
I like that policy that's coming, obviously, as a business owner. And I think a lot of people out there with businesses should think about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can just look at the corporation landscape. Most corporations aren't out distributing income in the form of dividends. They're not doing huge stock repurchases to take that money and essentially make the company more valuable. A lot of those, businesses are actively in growth mode, using the reduction in tax rates to go out and build the business out, grow into new markets, hire more people, and ultimately grow more value for the shareholders. If taxes go up, it means more expenses, means budgets get slashed, means heads get slashed.
Right.
And that's generally the trickle-down economics there. And if we're already in a market where jobs are slowing down, unemployment's rising, what's that going to do? It means more people, they're going to need to suckle off the teat and get more government assistance, which is, I think, the major motivating factor for the Democrats is to try and keep people relying on social welfare and be in more control of, everybody's lives.
Well, listen, let's just be honest, right? And Dustin, I mean, you've been busting your ass your whole life, right? The whole thing is
most of
your life, right? You've been hustling,
yeah.
Right? Now imagine if I were just to give you fucking money, right? Would it not, if I were just to hand you money, would it not demotivate you?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
You'd be like, fuck it, I'm going to sit back and take money and fucking do nothing, right? And I think that's what ends up happening is one of the things I hear, and you guys could disagree, is, as an immigrant myself, I am the generation. I'm not even first generation. I'm it. I fucking came here and everything like that. But at that time, no one gave a shit. Like, it was like, fucking, you come here and you work, and my father fucking busted his ass just like your dad, right? And I'm sure your ancestors, just like all the fucking immigrants that come here. And being an immigrant is great because this country was built on the backs of immigrants, right? And everybody would come here and they would just fucking hustle and try to make it, right? I think, when people talk about the new immigrants that are coming here and they try to apply that and they say, well, it's a good thing because they're going to end up taking fucking jobs that other people don't want. Be honest with you, I agree with that. But what ends up happening is if they come here, and as soon as they come here, and we know Latinos, they have great work ethic, right?
Yes.
But as soon as they come here, as soon as, like you say, we put them on the teat and we say, oh, you don't fucking have to work. Here is some money, sit fucking back. What do you think is going to happen to that culture?
Yeah.
That culture is going to get fucking, they're going to be like, fuck that if we don't need to work. It's just natural. Who the fuck wants to go be a busboy if they're going to get the money, to not be a busboy?
I'd rather sit at home and play video games.
Right?
Yeah.
So as much as people want to think like, no, these guys are going to come here and they're going to benefit the fucking economy, I would agree if they didn't fucking put them on the teat right away and start handing them money. Shit, there's a job shortage here right now. I mean, let's look around Tennessee. Let's just be honest. And I've been saying this for such a long time. I understand that, we're in a red state. I also disagree with the fact that we're not grabbing some of these fucking migrants that are coming here, right? There's a fucking shortage of manpower in especially Nashville. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I'm at Dunkin' Donuts, right? I'm originally from New York. Let me fucking tell you something. In New York, if that motherfucking order didn't come out right in 3 minutes, there'd be an uprising in that fucking... there'd be fistfights in New York in fucking Dunkin' Donuts. You've been to New York, right? Dude, I waited 15 motherfucking minutes, and the order still came out fucked up. And I'm like, what are you fucking doing? And again, I'm not stereotyping. Fact of the matter is, if there were 4 fucking Latinos back there, that shit would have came out in 3 minutes, and that shit would have been on point.
That's the thing is, there's a labor shortage, but the people that are actually working are they're a bunch of dumbasses.
They're fucking dumbasses.
They're doing it because they know they have to.
Right.
They're not doing it because they're doing it because they need to, and that's about the most mental capacity they're bringing to the position. It's just, I cannot wait to get the hell home.
Even in your business, I'm sure, maybe not. But there's a shortage of fucking workers here, man. And if they weren't putting them, and if they weren't right away just saying, hey, here's fucking $600 a month, fucking don't do anything, right? These motherfuckers would be out working, Yep. I mean, I've never in my life, and I don't know, you have a beautiful apartment here, so you don't have landscaping, right? But even the simple thing of fucking landscaping, Every fucking landscaper is so busy they suck in the state of Tennessee, or at least in fucking.
It's like that here.
It's horrible.
Yeah, when you're in an environment where there's a lack of employees to hire, the quality of work and their fear of losing their jobs just diminishes.
Yes.
And it just keeps going down and down.
Right.
Now we're slowly starting to trend into an increasing unemployment market.
Right.
There's still more job openings than there are people actually unemployed. The pendulum's slowly swinging, but once rates start to get cut, that'll spur the economy, and I think we'll be back into a lower unemployment environment. But yeah, I mean, if you can go flip burgers for $20 an hour, and you got two brain cells, one's lost, the other one's out looking for it,
Right.
and you don't have to worry about the fear of getting fired.
Right.
The quality
Right.
that you're going to get from
Yeah.
these people is just trash.
Right.
I travel internationally once a month. I go on vacations all over the world, and I tell people when I get back here, it's depressing coming back to the States because people are rude. They're underappreciative of what you do. The service you get for the amount of money you spend is just terrible compared to other countries.
Right.
Nobody's grateful. The work ethic's terrible. Unless you're, in very select markets with strong hospitality, it's just like a terrible experience. And, we're just getting, worse and worse and worse as a country. And something's got to change.
I always feel like when I drive around now and I'm going to a fast food place or a restaurant, just everything feels like it's at half mass.
Yes.
Like nothing feels like it used to. It feels like everybody just doesn't give a fuck.
They don't.
Like even just going through the drive-through at Taco Bell, it's just like, damn, like
no one gives a shit.
and I even went to Universal with my son this year, and it was just like all the employees. I remember as a kid going, and just being like the most magical
Right.
thing ever.
And it ran like clockwork, right?
Right. Everything, there was just stuff going on everywhere. And you go there now, it's just like here's your ice cream. Like it's just awful,
Right.
man. It's terrible. And but it's like that everywhere, especially where I live. I live much more rural, so it's even worse. There's not really many places to work, and the quality of workers we do have, like you said, they're looking for the other brain cells. So it's just it's completely different now than what it used to be, and it sucks because it feels like America is one of the greatest countries on the planet, and right now it definitely doesn't feel that way.
And I'll tell you why. I think it's a two-pronged thing. I know when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to work. Like, I wanted to go fucking earn money and do all that shit. I grew up in New York. All we did was trying to fucking hustle. You know what I'm saying? I think that hustle has gotten lost in the new generation because everybody is trying to just get rich really fucking fast. And they'll refuse. They refuse to fucking take remedial jobs in order to make money and then to grow, right? They just want to go from zero to fucking hero, right? That's A. B, I think with all these government plans and handing out money, it's kind of demotivated motherfuckers from working, right? And taking those remedial jobs. And I'll tell you something. I lived in California for about 8 years, right? As much shit as people want to talk about California, that whole fucking state is run by Mexicans. Really. And those fucking Mexicans, man, they work.
Right.
I mean, you live there.
Yeah.
I mean, did you have any problems with anything in terms of, obviously service? Yes. Where it's like high-end restaurants. Why? Because a lot of the fucking, the high-end restaurants, they hired a bunch of white people, right?
Right.
That really didn't want to be fucking waiters.
Right.
They're just
They
waiters
still
as a placement because everyone in California wanted to be a fucking actor or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was beneath them to fucking serve,
Yeah.
You got to look at the silver lining in all of this. While I feel like the majority of our country is becoming dumber and dumber or has a poor work ethic, the people who actually grind and work hard have a better opportunity than they've ever had to go out there and crush
100%.
it.
100%.
And so I always try to tell the people close to me, stay focused. Don't look at everything that's going on around you. Look at what you can do. If that's your competition, it should be very easy for you to be successful in today's day and age. And you see it all the time with a lot of really young people out there very early on crushing it and making multi-millions, whether it's wholesaling, lending, social media, coursework, you name it, trading. There's, crypto. There's so many different ways to make money and to make it without a degree today with just applying yourself with online learning and coursework and doing your own due diligence. Like, everybody else is just scared, and everybody else is just going through the motions, waiting for that next stimulus check, waiting for that next, handout. And if you actually put in the work and grind, you'll go out and crush it. I mean, speaking about college is another way just to get you in debt and teach you garbage. Unless you're in the few different, service industries, whether you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or engineer, professional services. College isn't worth shit. I dropped out of college as a freshman in university, and look what I've been able to do with my career. I was able to get into real estate at 19, 38 now. I've got 19 years of experience. I know people that got into my industry at 30 years old. They're 50, and they still don't have the level of experience I had. And so I've got a doctorate in PhD 5 times over at this point. And if I would have stayed in school and went through medical school like my parents wanted me to do, I'd be a miserable doctor, maybe making $500,000 a year.
Right.
And I
Probably
make that
a quarter of what you make.
I make that in a month.
Yeah, there you go.
Truth.
Yeah.
I could attest to that.
I've got a 2-year degree, and the only thing it ever got me was a $30,000 a year job that I absolutely hated. It's like, this shit sucks. What is it? Why did I even go to school, So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. It limited me from a lot of different opportunities along the way, but I didn't let that deter me from, from what I was destined to be. And so I just put my head down, outworked the competition, eventually had people that believed in me and brought me along. And, here I am today out here crushing it. And if I were to tell myself, 18-year-old me, go back into college or just jump right in, I'd say just jump right in. Don't even waste your time.
What it was just so pushed by our generation, like go to school, get a degree, get a good job and get good benefits. Like that was literally implanted in our brains every day through middle school and high school. Because I'm 36 years old, so I'm not far behind you. So that's just the way it was. And if you didn't go to college, I remember all my friends went to college, and I didn't go, and they all looked at me like I was like just a dumb, like I was an idiot. And I was like, damn. And now I make more money in a month, and every single one of them do all year. And that's just purely from the grind, purely from wanting to get more than anybody, and just putting my head down and just wanting it more than other people. And you don't have to be good at the beginning. It's just trial and error. So if there's something that you really want to do, whether it's you want to be a real estate agent or a wholesaler or a lender or whatever it is, real estate's one of those multifaceted. It just has so many things you can do with it. But you can go out, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. I mean, you can go out there and be better than... dude, there's so many shitty real estate agents where I live. And
everywhere. 99% of real estate.
All you would have to do is just do it. Just turn it up a little bit, and you would outshine all these people that have been doing it for 20 years. So,
I tell you something.
Go ahead.
On what you're saying.
Yeah.
I often get asked, and I don't know why, from multiple people. Do you think that it's working harder is better, or working smarter or being educated? And I try to tell people, I say, look, I'll give you a sports analogy, and this is exactly what you're saying and what you're doing. It's as if you wanted to play a sport, right? When you get into any fucking sport, I don't give a shit who you are or how talented you are. You're gonna have to practice, right? And you're gonna fucking suck, right? But the more you practice, let's say you want to hit baseballs, right? The more you practice swinging that fucking bat, the better you're going to get at hitting that ball, right? And it's the same exact thing in business, right?
100%.
And so I try to tell them, if you're to ask me, first off, I think that educating yourself and being smart at something is important, obviously. Yeah. But if you got that fucking grind, if you have that grind, and you could correct me if you're wrong, you're going to fucking be successful at some point.
Hard work beats talent 9 times out of 10. When the 1 out of 10 exception is when you're talented and you work hard.
Right.
Well, you develop that talent, after you work so hard, after you hit so many baseballs, then you become, you realize these hidden talents you did have. Like when I first got into wholesaling, I wasn't good with negotiating with sellers. I'd walk in their house and have no fucking clue what to say. I remember I had a digital camera, which I have a $1,200 phone over there with a better camera than any digital camera I could buy, and I'm just taking random pictures of shit. I have no clue what I'm doing.
You faked it till you made it.
Yeah, I mean, there's stains on the ceilings, and I'm like, what's that from? I have no idea. Sure, I'll give you 15 grand, sign this paper. But, the more I did that, the more confident I got, the more I learned about houses, the more I learned how to talk to different people, the more I learned what kind of different personalities people have. Because not everybody's the same. Some people you can joke with. Some people need to be very serious. Some people need to be sympathetic with. And you learn these and develop these skills that I didn't have on day one. It took time. It took reps. And now I am able to go into a house and talk to a motivated seller and sign a contract on the spot and confidently say, hey, we can do this deal.
Right.
Whereas when I first started, that even thinking about that conversation made me want to vomit.
Right.
But, you take
Practice.
it step by step. Yeah, exactly.
You kept swinging.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, like you said also, I think then you get, we all went and played sports, right? Then you get that one special motherfucker, right? Where, I was a good athlete, but I was not a fucking amazing athlete. Right. And I made it to, I went to college, on the full lacrosse scholarship and everything. Like I did my stuff, right? But then you have that one kid that is just fucking super talented, and he's got the balls behind him and the work ethic, and then that guy becomes the superstar, right? And in every business, you have that perfect fucking mix of person. Also, you get like that Elon Musk type of person, right? Where he works hard like a motherfucker, and the guy is fucking brilliant, right? And then he goes and he becomes ultra successful, and like you said, you get that 1 out of 10 that just becomes that superstar. But then people think like because he's so smart, he didn't have to work hard. Meanwhile, that motherfucker's working, harder than everybody else.
Yeah. He's probably working longer days than we are.
100%.
Yeah, Trump just came out. He's like, I don't think I can add him to my cabinet. He's too busy.
Right.
But I'll bring him on as an advisor.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. I'll tell you something, and you're going to appreciate this because I want you to do it, and I want you to do it too. My nephew is fucking brilliant. He's really smart, and he's a hard worker. And his father is the same way, my brother-in-law. And I'm sitting at dinner. Last time I was in New York, and he's telling me, I said, Jake, how long did you work this week? He's like, Uncle Steve, I worked like 70 hours. I was like, holy shit, motherfucker. You're young, you work 70 hours, good for you. And his father turned to me and goes, don't tell him good for you. Because he's got to fucking work like that. I guarantee you worked longer than he did this past week. I'm like, did I? I don't know.
Probably not.
He's like, what I want you to do is clock yourself in because you're not, and clock yourself out because you're not. And then tell me how many hours you worked this fucking week. Do an experiment.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, I like to think of it as how hard you're working and how productive you're working. I know a lot of people that work 80 hours a week and they can't do what I do in 10 minutes. So it's like your heart rate and how fast you're burning calories. You could walk 10 miles or you can sprint 10 miles and it's a lot different.
But the thing is, what you're not taking into account is you're up early and the first thing you're doing is looking and you're responding to emails.
Yeah. I'm clocked in from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m.
Right.
Answering stuff, but it's
Correct.
not consistently. I'm like glued to my phone,
stuck in a
watching it, not doing anything else.
But you're working.
Yeah.
But you don't even realize, and I want you to realize, and I want you to realize, because all of us are thinking that we're not. But you're constantly working, bro.
Well, my brain's always thinking.
That's
about
what I'm
business.
saying.
It never stops.
100%. So as much as I thought, like, holy shit, this mother, young buck is fucking working 70 hours. When I clocked it in, I was like at 85. I'm like, holy fuck.
I
This
dream
is fucking crazy.
about business.
I know you do. This is what I'm saying.
I'll dream about certain deals that I'm doing, and yeah, I mean and that's where a lot of my stress comes from too, because my brain is always going. I'm always working. I'm always thinking about a deal. I'm always staring off into the lights, thinking about what I have going on, and it's really hard to turn that off.
It's very hard.
It's very hard.
Even when you're, believe me, when you're with your kid. And, when you're out or whatever you're doing, trust me, man, I'm telling you, your brain's fucking working and you have that in the back of your mind. And that's, and I think we all take that for granted because, as much as we all think like maybe we've made it and maybe, we're not, putting in the hours, believe me, we're fucking putting in those hours. We're doing it. And that's important. But it becomes like so much second nature and that you don't really realize.
It's funny you bring that up because I was watching that show, The Industry, on HBO, and it's a story, or it's a series about some interns that get brought onto this investment bank that's supposed to be better than Goldman Sachs and the competition. So it's a really hard, upfront process of your first 6 months, and they chop half of the employees before they become analysts. And the managing director sitting on the trade floor, he's like, what is our fucking budget number? Who can tell me what our budget number is? And he looks around the whole room. and nobody can answer it. He's like, I go to fucking bed with that number every night. I wake up with that number and I'm managing to that number. And if you fuck my budget up, you're fucking with me. Right. And he's like, just because he's like, basically, I'm going to just shit can everybody that doesn't focus on the bottom line in the business. They don't understand how much stress that guy goes under, but he's out at client dinners and partying and doing all this stuff. And they think that he's got it easy and they're doing all the work, but he's the one that's responsible for everything happening. And that really resonated with me.
Me too. I think what you're saying is the fucking truth. You know,
I think about this, not sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I think about this all the time is before I got into real estate, I fixed copiers and I would work 40-hour weeks and I would wake up at, get there at 8 and get off at 5. And I remember, like, sometimes I missed that. Like, I hated the long days, but I remember being able to come home and turn my phone off and be done working and have that gap of, like, I actually can relax now. What I've noticed now, though, being a business owner, is that never happens anymore. There's never a time where I can just, come home and, well, it's 5. I had a busy day. Just turn everything off. Everything's always going. There's always an email. There's always a deal working. Because we are very vital parts of our business. And so if we, as much as I hate to say it right now, if I stop working, my shit stops going.
100%.
So I got to keep going.
100%. I mean, tell them a story. Tell these guys a story when you started investor funding. And, I mean, you were the originator.
Oh, yeah.
You were the processor. You were the shipper. You were the fucking warehouser. And the funder closer, right? I mean,
so if you stay out too late in one night and have too many to drink, you're gonna have to shitty
he
day
was
the next
it.
day.
I mean, he had to he left his business, and where he was partners, very similar to me, like when I left. But he opened up investor funding before we got together, and he was fucking. You had to learn everything from scratch.
Bootstrapped everything, from filing the entity, opening the bank accounts, the technology implementation, marketing, guidelines, raising capital, finding buyers for the loans, going through all the legal work. I wasn't paying attorneys and all these professional service people because I didn't have the money at the time. Like, I bootstrapped that thing and wore 50 hats, and then brought one person on, shed 5, 10 here at a time. But this was in September of 2019. I got the business fully up and ready to fund its first loan January 21st of 2020. And then 2 months later, the pandemic came and the whole world was over.
Right.
And my investors were calling me saying that they're going to sue me for the money if I don't return it.
Right.
And they gave me an olive branch and said, if you give us the loans you originated at what we lent out, you're not going to make $1 on these. We'll wipe out the credit that you have with us, and let's see where the market goes, and we'll have a conversation down the road. So from the euphoria of building a business all by yourself, not having to do it with anybody else's money, to having it all taken away from you in 6 months. And then 6 months later, it all coming back, and that was one of the most craziest roller coaster rides I've had. But I don't know very many people, and I could probably count them on one hand, who could go through that and weather that storm and find a way out of it and have the level of success that I had. And that's with no education and my first venture into entrepreneurship as my own entrepreneur, not having other partners or stepping into a business that was already built. But it was a hell of a ride, and I would go through that experience 10 times over.
That was going to be my question, because then you are who you are now because of it, and you've learned everything, like you said, just boots on the ground type of deal. You learned through true grit and grind. And
that's because I had no option to fail. I come from a family that's very poor. I'm the only one that's really made it. There's family members that are successful in their careers, but I've really built a career for myself, and I was not going to let go of that. I was going to fight tooth and nail.
Most people would have
to
probably
keep that
quit.
thing. Oh yeah, I wanted to stick my head in the sand and just forget about everything. I'll file bankruptcy and worry about rebuilding my career again. But that was not an option. And I just kept my head down, kept grinding. I connected with Steve later that year. We were both in a similar situation. We put our resources together. We decided to combine the platforms, and the second iteration of investor funding went from doing $2-3 million a month to $30 million a month in 90 days after we put our teams together.
It was fucking crazy. It was
crazy.
It was meteoric. It was crazy. It was just fucking, that shit just took off. It was like on wildfire.
That's awesome.
But again, then the rates went against us, right?
Yeah.
And then we were looking at each other because we had some investors out there. Same fucking thing happened. Yeah. And we were like, holy shit, we got to come up with money, and thank God, with the grace of God, and negotiation skills and shit like that, we got out of that one, without too much of a hit, right? But
so live to fight another day. That's what I tell people. I was like, you can fall down 6 times, but you better get up 7. The old Dwayne Wade, saying, it's just all about fighting through adversity and being resourceful. And like, when it's time to get shit done, like, that's when I thrive. When my back's against the wall, ain't no motherfucker gonna stop me. Like, that's when I'm at my finest. I might get comfortable at different phases of my life where I might not be as engaged, but like when the pressure's on, I make diamonds, baby.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth.
So let's take a step back. I know we talked a lot about, what's going on in the political landscape. Let's just talk about outlook for 2025. Dustin, why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about, depending on how the election goes, does that impact your business any differently? And what are your plans for next year?
I don't think it impacts my business directly. I have noticed a little bit, and I hate to be one of those people that says, it's been a little slow here lately. This has been one of my slower summers. I have in my Facebook memories last year, I had 17 pending under contract. And I think I've got about 5 right now set to close. But this year is a lot different from last year. Last year, where I was doing almost 100% wholesale, I've got 2 fix and flips going right now, and I've bought way more rentals this year than I've ever bought. So it's actually been my greatest year. I've gained more as far as my net worth. I've also got more in my bank account than I've ever had. So I'm in the positive. I think everybody's just kind of waiting for November. I've got some houses that are just kind of sitting out there right now. Pretty much in my market, everything that's 350 and up is just kind of stagnant. If it's 250, 300, it'll go, but anything up more than that, it's just kind of sitting. I'm hoping to be able to continue to do what I'm doing. So I just Friday picked up another one that we're going to buy and do a fix and flip on. But my biggest goal would be to just add more cash flowing doors with equity, not just cash flowing with no equity. It's got to be a good deal. But that's going to be my biggest. Same thing, just rinse and repeat, but just double it.
So, I mean, just with the general outlook, of 2025, interest rates should come down. That'll help you improve your cash flow on your existing portfolio through refinancing the properties. And Steve and I are going to help you take a look at that to see if we can help lower your interest rates and improve cash flow. The home prices, the liquidity below and above 350,000, that's a byproduct of affordability. So if rates go down, more people should be able to afford at the higher price segment, which should unlock another part of the market for you to capitalize on. And then just finding deals with equity and cash flow, that's your business, finding off-market properties and trying to monetize those, create value through renovating them or just finding them at a discount.
Just keep building my brand, just keep building that up and being the number one name in my market. Right now I am. So I get noticed. What's great is I get noticed out in public all the time. You're the guy that buys houses. So the branding has worked. One thing I am a little nervous about, though, and maybe you guys can fill me in on, though. So, they say they do drop rates, but in turn, that's going to drive the demand up. So, in my opinion, would that not drive the prices of houses up even further, causing more conflict? So, I mean, it's great to have, I've got great houses right now that I want to hold on to. I'm like, well, will they appreciate when the rates drop because of the supply and demand? Now it opens up this whole new buyer pool that are going to be outbidding each other.
I'll tell you something when it comes to that. I think in that pocket that you're talking about, right, not the affordable housing market and not the unaffordable housing market, I think there is that lull in the market where a lot of people are between the middle class and upper middle class market, right? There's so much inventory right now that when the rates do come down and it is affordable, I don't think, and you could speak on your behalf because you're one of them holding on to these properties, I don't think that the investors that are sitting in that pocket are going to get greedy and be like, fuck it, I'm going to raise the prices. I think they're so motivated at that point to be able to get rid of those fucking properties that they're just going to get rid of them at market, whatever it is.
Sure.
I do think that in the unaffordable housing market, that's naturally going to, get more expensive. And in the affordable housing, you're going to get a little bit of a tick. But, you could correct me. I don't think in that bubble there's going to be much movement.
It all comes down to a math equation, and there's 2 levers. If rates come down too fast, it'll drive prices up. And there's going to be a period of time where people are going to be able to buy market at a lower interest rate, and then the lower the rates go drives prices up. They'll be the benefactors of more equity, which is why I'm telling people to buy now before rates go down.
Yeah.
Now, when rates go down too low, we get to a point where a lot of people who are having affordability issues enter the market, which causes an increase in demand, and the supply is not there yet. And it just depends on like what income bracket it falls within. It's going to be, dependent on certain markets. And so I think it's, overall, my guess is somewhere between like 5 and 7.5% appreciation next year, which is very reasonable. Not 10, 20, 30% like we saw in 2021, where rates went from 5% to 2%. I think we'll see rates go from middle of this year around 7.5 down to maybe 5.5, 6%, which is historically a very reasonable mortgage payment. But without wage growth, which is not happening here in the States right now. And if we're going to have higher taxes, which is going to cause another issue with employment and income, I don't think we're going to have a lot of new qualified buyers entering the market. I think we'll see a refi boom where a lot of people are refinancing into lower payments. But are people really going to unlock affordability enough where they're going to re-enter into the housing market? I don't think so. I think it'll help the lower income side of the market, but a lot of people that are in the higher income middle class side, I think they're going to decide to stay, tweak the rate, get into a lower, more affordable payment, and stay put versus just let's go put our properties on the market. It's 2% mortgages everywhere. And then I also unlocked $500,000 in equity in my property to pay for my down payment for the next one. Houses have been stagnant since these people got in, to these houses in the last 2 years with higher rates. So there's no equity to unlock.
Right.
And then, your best bet is to get a lower payment and save a little bit more money so that you can afford to buy in the future. So a big purchase boom, I don't think so. Maybe in the lower income side of the market, you'll see it. But
I agree.
I don't think we're going to see a huge increase. And the luxury market's never interest rate dependent. Those guys are flush with cash. Most of the time, they don't even use debt. If they're using debt, they're borrowing against their stock portfolio for 3-4%. They don't even have to go get a mortgage to buy their houses.
Truth.
So high end's generally not affected, whether it's a recession or a boom or high interest rates, low interest rates. It's the middle class guys, the real estate investors and lower income, groups that are all affected differently depending on where they operate.
I have a question for you. So where are we going to close out our business, you think, this year? And what's our projection coming for 2025? Like, where do you think we're going to be?
So this year, we'll hit the $1 billion mark by the end of the year, and most of that was done in the back half of the year. We didn't really see an uptick in business until we closed our partnership at the end of March. So it's really been the last 4 months have been the major months, and we're continuing to see month over month growth. And then $2 billion is the number for next year. We need to go out and lend $2 billion, and I think we have a great chance at doing that. And I think we can even eclipse that, especially with the new team that we just recruited over that was doing $200-300 million a month at one of our competitors. We got some sick stuff in the works right now for investor. Just a general outlook on the political side of things. I mean, it doesn't really move the needle too much for us, whether it's blue or red at the end of the year. I think if it goes red, it gives us a little bit more certainty that we can push a little harder and we have a lower tax rate and, we can be more aggressive in the market. If it ends up blue, we should still see rates come down. We're still going to see activity on the investor side, but there are some, macroeconomic issues and geopolitical issues that I think can continue to cause some concerns with the stock market and the bond market, which affects our cost of capital in this space. So I'd be a little bit more cautious if the election goes blue this fall. If it's red, it's red means green, blue means red, or at least yellow. Cautiously optimistic. If we go Democratic, I'm bullish. I'm like horns are out and I'm plowing through everything if we go red, especially in a declining interest rate market where we can make bets and do things because we know prices are going to come down for us, where we actually make a bigger spread as rates go down because we originate here and we sell here, but we price it where it is today. And if the pricing rates go down and we're selling a higher interest rate mortgage, our profit margins are bigger. So we can do a lot more things creatively by, aggregating and holding bigger pools and selling them instead of when interest rates are rising, the value of the mortgage that we can sell is less and less. So we need to sell it quick. So we've been selling loans every week, boom, boom, boom. But before rate hikes were going, we were selling loans 60 days. We'd make a spread on our credit lines, sell big packages, get better pricing because we were providing more inventory to the end buyers. but we're actively looking at putting together our own capital to securitize our loans and package them up and manage those assets all the way through, to maturity, or when they pay off both the short-term notes and the 30-year mortgages, because there's income in the servicing and asset management side that we can capitalize on. So 2025, I think liquidity is going to improve across the board. More buyers, more financing, cheaper cost of debt. Investors are going to thrive in 2025 because lower interest rates, ideally prices are moving up. They should have more margin, lower cost, higher profit margin, means they can redeploy into more investments. And it's going to be a great refi boom. Anybody who got a mortgage in the last 2 years, game on. Rates are going to be lower. First one to get to them. We're building out call centers. We're hiring massive teams. We're implementing new technology. We're doing all this stuff to get out in front of the refi boom next year. I think it'll hit probably end of Q2, middle of next year. It'll really start to pop. But for right now, we're getting some momentum, and that momentum will help us continue to build up business.
I happen to agree with you. I think, like I always say to you guys out there, like Ras the Boss said, this is the time, and you've said it, this is the time to buy, right? Buy correctly, buy in markets that you know, but go out there, invest, buy, because right now the market is, as much as you guys think it's unaffordable, it's still fucking affordable, right? Compared to what's coming. You could get some really good deals, and then when the rates come down, like you said, and prices go up, like you said, they're going to be able to refinance, get the fucking rate that they want, but they're going to have some equity built up. This is it. Let's wrap up. We're wrapping up episode 2 of the Game of Loans. Ras the Boss, Dustin, and Steve Afra. See you guys later. You've been listening to The Game of Loans, where real estate battles are fought and won. Make sure to fortify your defenses by subscribing. Cash flow is coming, and we'll be back next time to help you claim your throne. The war of wealth continues.